can positively change lives. I have the urge to throat punch adults who shout angrily at children, but I don't, because I use a simple code to manage my anger, which I will share with you later. If I were to hit adults who shout children, I would be displaying the same violent behaviour as them, because I believe that shouting at children is violent behaviour. Violence isn't always physical, but it is forceful, and shouting can be the expression of trying to force your values, your beliefs, or your opinions onto someone else. If I were to shout my talk at you right now and threaten you to pay attention to me, would you believe that I help people manage their anger? Would you still want to hear about my anger management code? Would you even want to continue to listen to me? Either way, you can choose what you want to do. Children, however, do not have the choice about the violence they are exposed to. I was a child exposed to domestic and emotional violence. I witnessed my mum and my stepdad verbally and physically attack each other every single day until I left home. There was always shouting, doors slamming, things breaking. I felt on edge, scared of what might happen, and angry all of the time. It affected my personality. It affected my social life. It even affected my schooling. In fact, there was a time when I was pulled out of my maths GCSE exam because there was trouble at home and I needed to get there. But I didn't want to go home. School was my sanctuary. I felt safe there. At home, however, I felt trapped in an unpleasant and dangerous environment. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't voice how I was feeling to others. And I felt that the only thing I could do was to wander the streets late at night and avoid the violence at home. One night, while walking home, I could see the blue lights in the distance and my heart sank as I realised that it was either the police or worse, the paramedics outside my house. I only had one thought. One of them has finally killed the other. I ran towards my house, feeling sick, full of fear and anxiety, and as I got closer, I could see my mum lying motionless on the pavement. That night changed my life. According to research, 1 billion children each year are either exposed to or experience violence. 1 in 3 children are affected by emotional violence, and nearly 3 in 4 children are regularly suffering violence or psychological aggression at home. It is suggested that children who are exposed to or witness violence are at greater risk of becoming angry and aggressive adults. Perhaps that's why I always feel the urge to headbutt people that anger me. But let me reassure you, it is just an urge, motivated by the crocodile and the rhinoceros in my brain. Metaphorically speaking, the crocodile controls my instincts and the rhinoceros controls my emotions and feelings. They both want to keep me safe and urge me to either protect or attack others. Essentially, they activate our survival mode, and I call that primal anger, which is a communicative emotion telling you that something isn't quite right and you need to act. Survival is its reason because it prepares you to either fight or run away from a perceived threat. And liberty is anger's goal because it wants to free you from danger or an unpleasant situation. It is this primal anger that causes people to shout and hit out, and this expression is usually learnt behaviour from others. For example, we learn to speak and pick up specific accents from communicating with those around us. We also learn how to express our thoughts and feelings from others too. So if you grew up around shouty people, then you are more likely to be a shouter yourself. And if you grew up around people who ignored situations, then you are more likely to ignore things too. That said, some of us are able to learn new languages and even pick up different accents. So we can all change how we communicate our anger. I was able to learn to communicate my anger assertively through training as a positive anger coach. However, I wasn't always able to voice my thoughts and feelings that easily because I was often told children should be seen and not heard. And so I learned from a young age that my voice didn't matter, even though I had so much to say, but I was too scared to open my mouth. And the energy that I used to keep what I wanted to say in just caused me to cry. And I cried a lot as a child. This would anger my mum, and she would often threaten me and say, "Do you want a smack? Then you'll have something to cry about." Seriously, what child is going to reply with, "Yeah, I want a smack"? That was one of the things I wanted to say to my mum, but I dared not to. The thing is, it's my mother's primal anger was trying to protect her from an unpleasant situation that she didn't like, me crying. Her response was to attack and threaten me with physical pain. Do you think it worked? No. It just made me cry more, because my primal anger wanted to protect me from the perceived threat, and crying was my way of communicating my frustrations, my hurts, my anxieties, and my anger. She wasn't teaching me that it's okay to cry, or she didn't help me to express myself or my voice. She was teaching me to suppress my emotions, to keep my mouth shut, and that violence controls others. On the night when I saw my mum lying on that pavement, I saw that she was regaining consciousness, and I overheard her say that she didn't want to press charges against my stepdad, and that they were going to stay together forever. I was so angry because not only was she a victim, but she was also keeping me a victim too by staying with him. I realised in that moment that people react to negative situations without thinking about the consequences, without actually thinking at all. I also realised that if I had been there, something might have happened to me too. You see, during their previous fights, I would physically place myself between them. I'd scream at them to stop hitting each other as punches flew past my face. I never thought about my own safety. I wasn't thinking at all. I was responding instinctively, on autopilot, and unconsciously risking getting hurt every time I tried to protect them from each other. After that night, I decided to always think before putting myself in dangerous situations again. You may not realise this, but most of you will put yourself in danger every single day. But it won't feel dangerous to you because you know how to protect yourself from it and how to respond to it. And that danger is crossing a road. I was taught how to cross a road safely using the Green Cross Code, which consisted of 6 steps: to think, to stop at the curb, to look for any cars that might be coming, to wait, to then look again and listen, just in case, and when it's safe, to cross over to arrive alive on the other side of the road. It has stuck with me forever and prevents me from absent-mindedly crossing the road and stepping into traffic and risk dying. We can all cross roads safely, right? Because we're thinking about what we're doing. We know the potential risks and we all want the same outcome, to arrive on the other side safely. And yet, most of us will absent-mindedly respond to unpleasant situations without ever thinking about the consequences. For instance, many of us will argue around and shout at children without thinking about what impact that might have on them. I know that when we're angry, it can be hard not to react violently, but I also know it's not impossible. I propose that if we use similar principles that keep us safe when we're crossing the road and apply it to anger when it's triggered, then we can achieve a positive outcome. It simply starts with using your thinking brain, or mindful anger, to work with your crocodile and rhinoceros brain, the primal anger that keeps you safe. And I've created a positive anger code that helps me activate my mindful anger to respond assertively instead of reacting violently to situations that I don't like or believe to be wrong. I call it PACE, which is an acronym for pause for a moment. Give yourself time to think, to become aware of the situation and the risks, and consider what the consequence could be before you react. Then endeavour to achieve a positive outcome using your voice. What outcome are you hoping to achieve if you respond aggressively to others? It is better to use your anger positively, to respond to an unpleasant situation and to make a difference without being violent. A good example of this is looking at the actions of Martin Luther King Jr. He was the leader and spokesperson in the civil rights movement to end racial discrimination and segregation. Inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent movement for social change, King essentially transformed his positive anger at the aggression into positive action. He peacefully protested to demand justice and stand up for humanity. I now stand up for young people as an anger advocate and provide them with a voice to share how adult anger affects them. I was affected by my childhood and I am an angry adult. But I use my anger for positive change as I've overcome trauma and use my experience and the PACE code to build a successful career in positive anger coaching. Violence may temporarily relieve some of your anger, but it won't get you what you want in the long term, because there will be negative consequences. Therefore, rather than absent-mindedly protect and attack, use the PACE code to nurture and liberate your mindful anger and positively change your world. Thank you.